Does it work now?
Yes, beautifully.
Okay. When the light is, it's my wife's computer and it's my wife's headphones. I thought that when the light is on, that it's going to be working, but it has to be off. So it was on mute.
Cool. Jack,
So
it's an honor to have you.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be there, Johan.
Excellent, excellent. How you been doing?
Better, actually. The thing is, like this stupid COVID. Did you get COVID?
I had it, and it was no pleasure.
How long did it last?
I had it for about roughly 10 days.
10 days. Well, thing is, well, the thing is, like for me, after 2 weeks, it was pretty much done. But then I started having like a sinusitis. And then, eventually, I don't know if you heard in English what they called post-nasal drip.
I'm very familiar with that.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I started having that. So then eventually my sinuses started getting inflamed. It was getting down in my throat. Then I started having a sore throat. And then it was coming down all the way down my trachea and the bronchi. So basically, I was wondering what the fuck's going on because I was always like, spitting shit. Like I was not bad. It was very small, clear, whatever. So it was not infected. But at one point, I figured like, okay, well, as a vocalist, like I know pretty much about all sinuses problems and that sort of thing. So I have like those bottles that are almost like what you call also like a neti pot. And basically, like you just clear your nose with water, a water jet, like that contains salt and how do you call that? Bicarbonate de soude, whatever. Like it's baking soda, whatever you call it. And that sort. Then once I started that like 3 days ago, then everything started going well, and now I'm getting rid of that shit, completely. So, but it's been a month. Wow. So that sucks.
But how did you feel the whole COVID thing? For me, it was almost like as if the body is going through all these flu, whatever, everything with the head symptoms, but not to the full degree, just sort of there, then this, then that. Then it's like a concoction of all these different symptoms I had.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Like I'm reading, I just got some news, because we're probably going to talk about that, but John just sent me a message.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, I'll probably give you more details about that. But anyway, yeah, for me, it was like 3 days of feeling like shit, like fuck, I got hit by a ton of brick. I was weak. I had fever for 2 days, like, but very mild fever. Like, my temperature wouldn't go up any higher than 37.8. I never reached 38 or barely. But, at one point, like I was shaking like a leaf and I thought I would have to cover myself. But indeed, like you have to do the opposite, expose yourself to cold and get rid of all the, whatever. And I was all by myself at home because my wife was in France, visiting her family for 3 weeks. So
just quarantine.
Quarantine, indeed.
Once again.
Sort of, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like, I didn't work for that during that week, but I sometimes work. I'm a translator, so I translate documents and stuff.
Awesome.
And very often, like, I work for the government, and one of our clients has like classified documentation to be translated, and they have quite a bit of it. And in our team, like, there's not very many people who have like the top secret qualification or certification. So I'm sent on site, to work, quite often at that client's. But most of the time, like, even before COVID, we could work from home. So translation is really easy to control because they give you like 2,000 words to translate. If you haven't done, you're not done at the end of the day, then they will say like, what the fuck, client is still looking for their document. So it's easy to control. If you don't work, you're in shit. It's not like a lot of public workers who can just, sit at home and do nothing.
Yeah, yeah. But it's one of the benefits I found, at least. I'm in graphics, so this remote work thing was a positive result of COVID. It's grown and it seems to be growing even more. So a lot of companies are seeking what they call virtual assistants.
Yeah, but the
So,
thing is, in your case, if you're working in graphics and stuff, like, it's the same thing as what I'm doing pretty much. Like, if you don't do the work, you have nothing to show for. Your
exactly.
clients are going to be pissed off at you.
They're not going to
And
come
it might end
back.
up not, yeah, or they're not going to pay you unless they've paid you up front.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. So
It's a great way of working on your own time, and as long as you get it done, basically.
yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the whole brick and mortar thing anymore. Go to an office, stay there 8 to 6. It's kind of, I'd rather have multiple things that I can do during the day. I can also take care of something. I mean, the car breaks down. I don't have to sort of take leave to get that sorted out. It's just,
Hmm.
I found it a great way of working.
Well,
But
the thing is, in my case, like, I like it once in a while because like my client is right downtown Ottawa, like it's
okay,
across the river on the Ontario side. And when you're downtown, it's nice, it gets you out of the house once in a while, and that's cool. So I have the best of both
best of
worlds.
both worlds. That's great. Yeah, man, let's get to music. The whole reason why we hooked up. Um, I'm just gonna start off. I think I saw you with Exciter. Must have been 2001 or 2002, Wacken.
In Vakken, well,
I I
it,
hope
it
I'm
was
I'm
either
right.
98 on the party stage or in 2001 on the big double stage.
One. That
Okay,
was it.
2001. Yeah,
And
I saw actually a recording of that, like, that came out not so long ago on YouTube.
and
It
yeah,
was
and
not
I'd
bad.
really I'd lost track by that time of Exciter. I mean, the last touching point I had was probably Long Live the Loud, and I've not sort of revisited the band at all, really, because back then it wasn't sort of my thing. The it was more the thrashy acts that were like really on vogue. And
Hmm.
then I made a mental note and I revisited, and then I stumbled across New Testament later, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this sounds
So
phenomenal!"
totally different. Actually, the story of this behind this album is that I had left, Exciter, and that's probably like a well-known secret, like that. I left Exciter probably 3 times or something, then came back, whatever. And after the second time, I came back, and then I asked the band, like it was in 2002 or something like that. And I asked John, like, okay, so you want me to be back in the band? Because like in Ottawa here, like it's not a big city, and it's hard to find like good musicians and stuff. Like they're going to be serious enough. I said, okay, so I'll be back, but what's in the plans? Like, do you have like new materials written and this and that? He said, no, we have nothing left, whatever. And then I went like, what the hell are we going to do? Like it's going to take like another, because John takes his time when he writes new material. You see, like, we released Blood of Tyrants in 2000, and then it was not until 2008 with the new singer that they released something new. So it took 8 years. At our pace,
Right.
normally it would take like 2 years, two, three
Yeah,
years
yeah.
for a new album. So I said, like, okay, we have nothing to show for the last 3 years. You have no new material. So what's up? And then I suggested that we do like a live album. But then I said, like, that's going to present like the new lineup, like and the material, what it sounds like with the new vocalist and this and that. So it would be a good idea. But when we ended up like thinking, okay, well, this is going to cost too much. Like it was very difficult to get like a good quality mobile here in Ottawa.
Mhm.
So basically, we decided to just reproduce the idea, but in studio. And Osmos was not crazy about the idea, but they went like it was the last album of a 3 album contract with them, and they went like, sure, why not? So
Okay.
we released that, and I suggested New Testament for a title because I figured like that's the old story. Now it's a transition, and now like you have a new Messiah.
Great idea. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But there's a whole bunch of cheese about this album. Like even me, like being on the album cover, and even like on Blood of Tyrants, like this goofy guy, like who looks like Uncle Fester in the Addams Family, is me. Is yours truly.
Okay, cool.
So basically, to show you like how little money we have to run on most of the time. But hey, we always manage to produce something, and I think that besides all the cheese that can be like in the appearance and the cover and the image, I think that the most essential thing is the music.
Yeah,
So, and
absolutely.
and I'm glad actually that you liked the renditions of on New Testament.
I love them. Personally, that I mean, nothing against Beeler. That's obviously the original sort of thing. But I just thought the material was really reinvigorated. I thought the high pitched. I mean, he does Beeler does the screeching, but you had more of a, yeah, dare I say it, Halford approach to it, but like
Mm-hmm.
almost over the top. And it's that really gave those songs something. Wow. I mean, I think I must have played that album, and then Blood of Tyrants, obviously with Metal Crusaders and stuff to the death. It's just kind of those are anthems. It's just
Oh,
Anyway,
absolutely. And the thing is, I'm glad actually that you can appreciate those things because that was exactly the intention that I had behind like my rendition of the old stuff,
yeah,
especially.
metal hymns. But you did land on a quite awkward label for a proto thrash speed metal band being Osmos. Like them churning out all these black death bands. That was quite a weird, a strange but cool collab, I thought.
The thing is, like if you understand the genesis of this whole collaboration with Osmos, then you can very easily understand. That's an exception to the rule, I guess. But in this case, what happened is that Hervé Herbeau, who happens to be probably still the owner of that label, the big manager, big boss,
Last time
was
I
a
checked,
big.
yeah. Mhm.
That's right. He was a big Exciter fan since the beginning. And then eventually he started, trying to find out what John was up to prior to after the release of Kill After Kill. And he figured like it's been a few years, we haven't heard from Exciter. What the hell's going on? So he got in touch with John, and John said, well, after the tour that we did, well, that they did, like with Beeler and another bass player, I can't remember, David Ledden, I think, or something like that. Anyway, they had toured with Rage from Germany.
Oh, wow.
They did a short European tour, and when they came back, like Dan Beeler, like was very disappointed with the turnout, and he figured, okay, that's it. I've had enough. Like I'm gonna sell my drums and fuck music. Like that's it. That's it for me. So basically, the bass player was not part of the plan either. I guess he was just a hired gun, and John ended up being all by himself. Now, what happened is that John told Hervey, like, he says, like, it's cool actually that you're asking me at this point because I'm right in the middle of writing new songs with this new vocalist. And actually, I already knew John. Like, I've known John since the mid 80s. Like after he left Exciter, he ran some auditions here for a vocalist, like for a band called Black Star. I don't know if you've ever heard of that through the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
grapevine.
yeah, yeah.
So basically, I got the part, as they say in the business, and we started working on the new, new material and stuff. I was writing the lyrics back then, and we did one gig here in Ottawa in 1989, March 30th, to be more exact, March 25th or something like that. And then after that, John, that's has always had like some sort of a temper. I love him to death. Actually, to me, he's like a brother. I highly respect him, but we've had a lot of disagreement over time. We're very different personalities. He's more intuitive. I'm more rational. I look at things, as cool as possible, whereas he reacts with his guts to pretty much everything. And back in the days, he could be very explosive. So basically, after that gig, there's a couple of things. Well, you have to understand also that back in the days, I had long platinum blonde hair, whatever, back because like in 1989, it was in fashion. Basically, a whole bunch of people were doing it, and so he didn't like the look that I had. And back in the days, I couldn't speak English much because I'm French first and
Okay.
foremost. So he didn't like the way I intervened between the songs. He didn't like the topics that I was talking about between the songs to introduce the new material and stuff. And basically, he started fucking bashing me right, left, and center. And then I just went like, "Well, fuck this shit. If I'm not good enough for you, then
Wow.
whatever."
Yeah.
So that started like a little bit of animosity between the two, and then eventually he blew up on a couple of occasions, and I just went like, fuck, that's it, I'm not going to put up with this shit, whatever. So we tried to reconnect a few years later, but then eventually went back in 1992, I guess, with Exciter to release Kill After Kill. And so that explains why when he ended up that tour with Rage and ended up all by himself, like he figured he wanted to keep going with Exciter, but then he needed a vocalist who could do the job. So he knew that I was, up for it. And so he contacted me and I accepted right away. Even though back in the days, like that's probably 1994, 95, um, around those, that's back when metal was dead pretty much in North America. It was not nearly as strong as it had been in
Yes.
the 80s over in Europe. So a lot of people thought that our attempt would be a big failure. And in the end, when um, Dark Command came out, like a lot of people were pleasantly surprised. And basically, that's how we've been able to resurrect and maintain Exciter in life, or
That
alive.
was that was another funny thing. I had a good buddy of mine that suddenly, I mean, I used to visit him regularly, and he would always have something up his sleeve. There'd always be something new, some new obscure album he got from somewhere. Lord knows where he got it from, but and then suddenly that evening when I departed, we always shared exchange stuff, and then he just slipped Dark Command to me, and I was just like, "Is this the band from?" It has to be. It's the logo. So when I popped it in, I was just wow, ritual death, and like, I was just shit, man. This is so
that was
yeah,
that was a fun album to make also, like
and it's really aggressive. It's like, and it doesn't have to hide on an Osmos roster. It's really
well, that goes back to basically, Hervey. It's, I digressed a whole lot. Sorry about that.
no worries.
And then Hervey said, what are you doing? And then John says, oh, we're preparing something. And then Hervey says, give me whatever the hell you have. Like, I don't want to hear it first, whatever you have, send it to me. I'm going to publish it. And John said, okay, that's perfect. And that's how, that's what led basically to the release of Dark Command in 19 probably
That's seven
October,
ninety seven.
November 97. Yes,
Yeah, and you had
shortly before the tour that we did with Flotsam and Jetsam and Anvil over
oh,
in
cool.
Europe.
Canucks. Yeah, cool. And then you had Blood of Tyrants in 2000, 2004 was New Testament. And then obviously they went on with a thrash kill burn or something like a thrash
Thrash Speed
burn.
Burn.
Yeah.
Actually, it's an album that I worked on. Like when Kenny Winter was
Mm.
admitted in the band, all this stuff was already written. I had worked on it and on the vocals on all those songs. And the rendition on the album is not bad. You know, like Kenny's a good vocalist, but it was not basically what I intended to do. Well, we have different style, which is
Yeah, for
obvious.
sure. I mean, he has a style. I just felt it didn't have the same intensity, really.
The thing is, like, he
I
didn't
did see
have
them
time
live.
to
Yeah.
work on it. You know, I don't know if you know, but I mean, the way we proceeded, you know, when I first played in that Black Star project with John, the way I was using my voice was more along the lines of Rob Halford, and I would even say Ralph Sheeper from
Yeah. Primal
Gamma
Fear.
Ray back in the days, and now like with Primal Fear. So like it's there's not as much bottom end and aggression, but John, he said, "Listen, if you want to be part of this band, you're gonna sing the way I want you to sing." And I said, "Okay, sure, that's the deal." So all the aggression and stuff like is something that I had to work on to render it the way he wanted. And once he was happy with it, then we just recorded it and stuff. So basically, that's his influence on my vocal style that ended up like giving um, the results in Dark Command and Blood of Tyrants.
Okay, interesting. No, because I compared, I listened to your Assassin's Blade material, and you're a bit more subdued there. It's a different. You can hear it. It's obviously recognizable, but it's like you're more tuning up to the music. Really, it's not.
Well, the music is different, first
Yeah.
of all. The vocal melodies were already figured out because Peter Svensson, who was the bass player, sort of leader of Assassin's Blade, would record all the vocal lines with, well, first a guy named Holtman, who's a vocalist in some of his bands, and after that it was Marcus, who Rosenquist, who the drummer, who actually has a good voice, and he was recording all the drum track, oh, the vocal tracks for me. So basically, the only thing that I would do is listen to those and then render them with my way, as Frank Sinatra would say. And there's more of me in this case and less of John's influence, of course.
Yeah.
Now, some people might think that it was sounded better in Exciter and not as much, you know, and not as well in you know, I like backup vocals, I like harmonies, you know, like so I'm a big fan of Uriah Heep, for example, you know, like or prog rock like Yes and Gentle Giant, you know, and that sort of thing. So I was brought up with that in mind, and that I wouldn't say that I don't know crap about music. I can't play an instrument. I couldn't read music. I couldn't play anything. So basically, you know,
Right.
like I do everything from intuition.
Yeah.
So I do not have the pretension to be to know exactly what I'm doing when I'm writing vocals. I just go like, does it sound good? Does it sound not good? You know, at one point, you know, like when we recorded Soil of the Dead for the last Assassin's Blade album, the guy who did the mix at one point, he said, I'm gonna have to change the pitch in the chorus. I said, why? He says, because it's off. And then you're like, you know, he did the correction and sent it back to me, and I went like, that sounds like shit. You know, like, I mean, I don't care what you think or what your meter says. You know, like it doesn't sound what
So
I
like pitch correction.
intended to make it sound. So he went back to the original rendition, and I went like, don't touch it. That's the way I like it. That's perfect. You know, it's off. Well, ask me if I care.
Yeah, but sometimes they did a there's this, you know, all these stem tracks are now stem cells. All these stem tracks are making the rounds these days, and somebody actually treated I don't know which song it was, but it was David Lee Roth, maybe Panama, I don't know, and they ran him through all these vocal correctors that they're using now in studios.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounded so sterile. It didn't have that, because Diamond Dave had these he's a little off, he's a little here, he's a little there, but it's natural. It's it's live, it's real.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
Killing it, and yeah.
And I thought that that was the philosophy behind metal music, to be how some people say like organic, to be more natural, to be raw, to be, whatever. But then some bands have reached a certain level of sophistication. And I mean, like, in no way do I want to diminish the importance of sophistication in the way the music is played, because musicianship is important as well. Like those who can be a fucking virtuoso on their
For
instrument,
sure,
then it's
for sure.
perfect. But if you're going to traffic it with technical means afterward to make it sound totally different so you can sell more albums, then I just go like, well, that goes against my philosophy, the way I think heavy metal should be like. But the thing is, since the 80s, like we've gone with band that were like, raw, more natural, and this and that. And after decades of the same thing, there was like gazillions of bands that started, because like in the early 80s, heavy metal was just a handful of bands. And eventually it started growing so much and everybody started sounding pretty much the same, because like it looked like we had reached pretty much the limit of what natural or organic heavy metal could be. So then we had to, and I think that the auditors or the public can actually get fed up with the same thing over and over.
But
It's almost like being
isn't it
married.
like, but isn't it like everything in the 80s? You had these, these huge drums. They sounded like they were recorded in a cathedral. Snare drums.
Mhm.
I mean, Def Leppard. Everybody did it, and I think it's a trend. And now with studio technology changing so much, I mean, everything gets triggered and impulse responses and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to even go down the list. But now you're finding bands sounding similar again. And I think it'll also reach a point where it'll probably go back. I mean, you have bands going back to the original Greta Van Fleet and all these retro bands doing it organic, whether they're really recording analog. Some of them are apparently, if you have a possibility. So I always watch a trend. It's always goes in cycles.
Well, the trends is just like, consumers like, it's like human nature. People get fed up with of the same thing. Even, like when I was making the analogy seconds ago with marriage, you can be married to the hottest chick, like on earth. Eventually, after 10 years, like you got to, if there's nothing else but just physical appearance that will attract you to that person, then eventually you're going to go look somewhere else.
It's going to be short lived. No.
Well, the thing is, like, yeah, that's why depth, like is important, and the way you write music, like actually the natural can actually be part of the way you write and structure your music. Now, it doesn't mean that natural needs to be simple. Simple is Motley Crue, Motorhead. It's
Yeah.
like it's very simple, but it's delivered with heart and guts, and that's what convinces people. I
Agreed.
think
Absolutely.
that's what convinces me anyway. So, but it has become like a huge market where I just figure that when we released the Assassin's Blade albums, like I didn't have like any expectations about like success and sales and this and that. I did that mainly because like I like Peter, I like the guys in that band, and it was a pleasure for me, even though we were working like at this impossible distance. It was a pleasure for me to work on that music because I figured that we were on the same wavelength, like, and they gave me like full latitude to work on it. So that was cool. But I mean,
I really like the material. It's great. And but have you guys toured that material? Have you been abroad? Not yet.
we got some offers, but I mean, like, it was the sort of tour that the where it was offered to, like low grade, whatever. And when I mean low grade, I'm not talking about the quality of music, but I mean, it's in terms of sales. Like they will say, like, we'll rent a camper, like we're gonna park the whole fucking band in there. You're gonna, have a trailer in the back, and I just went, fuck no, I did that like a long time ago. I'm not gonna go back to that. Like this, even touring with Exciter, unless we were playing festivals, which was like perfect. Otherwise, like it was always, you know, this uncomfortable, poor conditions, poor diet, poor everything.
Wow, that's terrible.
And I don't like, like you get to the new place and all you have like is a fucking buffet with salami and cheese and beer. And I don't drink beer. And salami and cheese, I like that once in a while. But after
But
two
not
days,
every
man,
day.
like I'm fed up. So basically, um, my first tour with Flotsam and Anvil, it was 3 weeks, and of course, there's no money to be made, so we had to play every night. Like, and the worst thing is that that tour was going to feature Anvil and Flotsam only, and we were added at last second to sort of boost ticket sales. But we were told you're going to be on the bus, but we're not giving you any money. So you're not going to be paid. So we accepted that because we figured, okay, we just have an album that just came out and we're going to try to promote it and stuff. So for me, it was the first time that I did like a 3 week tour, but we had to play every night in a different city and sometimes traveling like 700-800 kilometers between the gigs. And the next gig, like you sleep like 20, we were 21 guys with 18 bunk beds only on the double decker. And the guys in Anvil and Flotsam wanted to fucking smoke and party until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So I couldn't fucking sleep. And basically, I ended up being fucking tired. Like, I'm not a partier. And then they
Yeah, yeah.
started, like thinking that I was some sort of prima donna, whatever. But then I went like, fuck, can you actually respect that I'm a vocalist and I don't like to have like smoking? It's our fucking tour, man. We're going to smoke if we want, whatever. So I just went like, that doesn't start very well. Like, how about like this, sort of mutual support between metal musicians, and then
Yeah,
I,
sure.
I went like, okay, that's all a fucking illusion.
Yeah, no,
They,
definitely. I mean, I would have thought that Eric AK would also do a lot to sort of not endanger his vocal cords. But I think he's a
well,
smoker, hey?
he is, but the thing is, like he's very good vocalist, but I mean, like he didn't have to deliver all the stuff that I needed to deliver myself,
Hmm.
like night in and night out. But anyhow, like what can I say? Like he did his thing, I did mine. I had a preference, like everybody was against it, and I just went, okay, just because I don't party to them. Well, I would say like AK was cool actually. He's one of the guys that I really liked on that tour. But the guys in Anvil, they just went like, oh fuck, you're not the real deal. You're not a real metal, musician because you don't party, you
Oh,
don't drink, and you don't smoke. And I just went like, I'm sorry, it's not my thing. Like that
sorry.
doesn't make me
I,
any
I,
less metal.
I want to do a good show. How about that?
Well, the thing is, like it's not part of my life. Like, I don't do those things. And I respect people who want to fucking do, like smoke a joint once in a while, whatever. It's their thing, like, but it's not mine. And but if they figure I have the right to smoke, well, you're gonna have to fucking put up with that smoke because my right to not smoke and not be exposed to smoke like is overridden by their right to smoke. And I just went like, okay, what about equity? How about like justice? How about respect? And I just went, even among metal musicians, there's no such thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've been there. I did my own little stint for close to 2 months in a tour bus, exactly like you described. And okay, I'm a smoker. Back then I loved the odd drink, and but it was I noticed it physically. It was really bad food, the constant smoke and drinking. It was just towards the end, you felt like a zombie. Totally.
Yeah.
And it's not something I could personally for myself. I made that decision for myself. It's not something I could do on a permanent basis. Never.
No, but well, back in the days, like I was like what in my 30s, which was sort of, I had the physical ability and stamina, whatever, to put up with it, like so. But now,
Nice.
forget it.
Yeah.
I'm 60 now, and there's, like I can still sing and stuff, but I mean, like, there's no way I would put up with that kind of shit.
Yeah.
It's not healthy, and then my health is the most important thing for me now at
And it
this
should be,
point.
definitely.
Here we go.
And we're back. No, to touch back on that again, it's just when I listened to the Assassin's Blade material, I really thought you guys must have played or must have been invited or something in that
I
direction.
can't see you, by the way. I'm sorry.
Sorry, yeah, just a second. You you definitely.
Yeah.
Long story short, you're definitely a band that I would see on a roster like a festival like Keep It True. You know,
We
that's
tried to get an invitation from Oli, but I mean, like it looks like he was not really interested.
okay.
So,
Wow, interesting.
well, the thing is, I was surprised because the Keep It True festival, I played it once, with Exciter, and it was really cool. And I really like, I sort of followed from a distance, and like the roster that they had like year after year, and I thought, fuck, they even invited like some bands, like Sword from Montreal, Hanker from Quebec City, I just and Death Dealer
Yes.
from Jonquière.
And they even
So I
had,
just went.
which is like comparable. They had, Alan Tecchio, and I think he was there with Hades, but also with his a newer project of his. So it wasn't like just,
Yeah, it's very
yeah.
original. That what makes the Keep It True festival unique, and that's what I said in a previous video that's on YouTube. That I think it's an important festival, but I mean, I don't know, for whatever reason, um, we didn't get any invitation. So basically, the only gig that we ever did was the it's in Denmark, the Metal Magic Festival, which is a
Oh yes,
very
yes.
small one. But it's a festival that Peter, our bass player, knew because I think, well, he knows all those festivals, and he really liked this one, and he figured, if we could play there, that'd be cool. So I flew over to his place. We rehearsed for a couple of days, and then we went over to, I can't remember, it's probably an hour from Copenhagen, and it was cool. Played there with Niflheim, whatever. I don't know how you
Niflheim.
Niflheim, and there was like, yeah, it was a fun thing, whatever. But that's the only gig we ever played together. So
Yeah, I
here you go.
suppose just getting one-off shows is one thing, but you probably ideally want a handful, so to really make it worthwhile, come over
Well,
the distance.
well, the thing is, in this case, like for me, it was. I had told Peter that whatever money he was going to get for this, like I said, put it in the band's account, so it can pay for you know recording or mixing and that sort of thing. So I said, like I'm going to take it as a vacation, and but the thing is, like I guess, on the flight over to Copenhagen, there was a guy right beside me, like who kept coughing and sneezing, whatever, in his hands, and he was putting his hands all over the friggin' place.
Uh,
And 2 days later, after I arrived at Peter's place, like I ended up having the fucking flu, and I was for three. So we practiced for a couple of days, and then I had to stop because, like, I was in bad shape, and I wanted to rest, because there was no way I was going to cancel that gig. So I ended up being like okay to do the gig, but I was not fully recovered. But hey, that's part of the game,
that's part of it.
Show must go on, as we say. So
Absolutely. So yeah, um, I guess I'm allowed to say it. You don't have to answer everything, obviously, but so you are working on something with John.
well, we have been for a little over a year. But let's face it, John is still has like good ideas and stuff, but he's working at his pace. Like he just turned uh 67 or 68 back in
Wow.
January.
Wow.
So this guy, started working hard at the job, whatever, but he started having like back issues because he's working physically. He's strong guy, man. John. And yeah, so uh, he doesn't have the same stamina he had back in the days, obviously. Like, and so he said, like, we're gonna be working on this project, and we're gonna be working at my pace. And I went like, okay, sure. So in about 6 months, we managed to have like 5 songs written, pretty much ready to record. Like we just needed to do a little bit of tweaking, this and that, and it was right back to what Blood of Tyrants and Dark Command used to sound like, maybe even a little bit more aggressive, if you can believe it.
Wow, now you've
But
answered my second question. I mean, yeah, does the Pope wear a hat? It's like, I think it's gonna be in one style. So
oh, absolutely. Well, it's John style purely. Actually, the funny thing is, like when you went back with Exciter for the last, couple of years that he reunited with the original lineup. The funny thing is, like, he would suggest stuff like come up with riffs, whatever, because he was eager to write new material and this and that. And Al and Dan would just say like, no, no, that's not really what we want, whatever. They even went, believe it or not, behind his back, like to get some riff written, like by some other guitarist. They're sort of, I think, I don't know if they recorded it, whatever, but then eventually they presented that to John and they said, John, this is what we should be playing. And he went like, he was appalled. Basically, he just went, what the fuck is this shit? Like, you're going to go to other people to tell me, John Ritchie, what I should be playing? Are you fucking nuts?
no, that's
Then,
ridiculous.
like, so basically, like I think that's the straw that broke the camel's back. And like, there was a whole bunch of stories that I could tell you, but I'm just gonna leave that to John. Like, and because of discretion, whatever, I'll let him decide what he could be revealing and not. But I mean, in this case, what's the fucking point? Like
Yep.
they knew what John had written with Dark Command and Blood of Tyrants and the last couple of albums. They knew it was going to be aggressive. So why go back with him? I guess that in the end, that's just my opinion, but I guess that, you know, John was fed up with the way things were going with Exciter, with the lineup that they had, with Clammy and Kenny Winter. There was a whole bunch of stupid issues like that were so trivial, man. It's like enough to, you get the feeling that you're dealing with kids, but kids who think they're fucking big stars, when in fact, John was the locomotive that was dragging all this fucking circus. Anyway, so that's at one point he decided he told Clammy and Kenny Winter and Rick Sharon, whatever, keep the fucking name. I don't give a shit. I'm out of it. Find someone else. So he actually said that. But then
Wow.
that's when he was so discouraged that, like he ended up like getting in touch with Dan and Al. And I guess that there had been like some deals on the table. And there's something somehow that convinced John to go back with Dan and Al. And that's when they decided we're going to keep the name Exciter and we're going to reunite with the original lineup. And then, that was the answer to a lot of people's prayers, actually. So a lot of people were really happy about this reunion, and it was a good thing for the music business and stuff. But it was no one had really changed. Basically, it looks to me like Dan and Al just did it because they wanted to. They were sort of begging for fame, like they were missing, the fame that they once had, and they figured that the only way they could get it like back is by reuniting with John, because I think that John had more success with his Exciter version than Dan Beeler had with the band Beeler. For say, it doesn't mean that Beeler's music was not good. It was just that the reception was not nearly as good. So basically, they ended up going back together. And I guess, for a while they were on a high because they were getting offers right, left, and center. People were willing to pay for them. So they did all those festivals and,
Yeah, but then
no touring, whatever.
the reality catches up with you again.
But the thing is, reality catches up with you, and there was nothing new. And John's intention was to release a new album. And I guess that the other two were not too too much in a hurry to write music. And it looks to me, from what I told you earlier, that they didn't really enjoy John's material. They thought probably it was too aggressive and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when problems started again. And then John had enough and he decided to leave. And but there was still some some energy in him, some anger that he wanted to express through new music. And that's when he contacted me, and we decided in March of last year, 2022, that we should be working together. Now, at that point, like the drummer we were working with decided to, he was working with so many bands that he ended up going like, okay, I don't have the energy or the time to devote to this project, so we had to find someone else. And John is very picky, so it took a while before we could find someone else. And I think that a few weeks earlier, a few weeks ago, they found someone with whom they're actually working now. Like, and basically, John was just confirming that they're still working with him to make sure that he would master the 5 songs that we had written already, and then eventually keep going on the new material. So it's going at a very slow pace. Like at this point, our bass player is in a job with the government where he has to travel the world. So basically, he cannot rehearse with us any more than once or twice a month. But it doesn't really matter, because in this case, like it happens between the vocals and the guitars pretty much, and the drums. Once the bass needs to be added, like it's much easier because the structure and the beat pretty much is there on the bone. So, but John is writing at a pace of maybe like 1 song a month at this point, because
maybe
it comes out of his guts, and he's not the one who's going to sit down and say, I need to write something. He's the type who goes like, fuck, he's going through something frustrating, whatever. And then all of a sudden he has an idea, and then he's going to work on it for a while, and then he's going to present it to us.
But maybe
So
that ensures that there's quality. It's really comes from the heart.
well, when we were talking about early authenticity and true and natural and whatever material, that's probably one thing that you cannot reproach to John Ricci, which is, like he plays his music and he writes his music, from the heart, from the guts, and that's it. He doesn't care whether it's going to be successful, sell millions or whatever. He says like, this music is me, and that's what art is supposed to be,
Exactly,
including music.
And he has such a I've studied his playing, be it live or on video. He has a very unique approach to playing. He doesn't do the palm mutes. It's almost like a Lemmy attacking the bass. It's just very open, wow, in your face.
Well, the thing is, it looks to me like Lemmy plays his bass the same way John plays his guitar, or
So,
the other way around. I
the other
don't
way
know,
around,
but
yeah.
I mean, like, it's open chords and fucking strumming and this and that, but it's always done in a very aggressive way. I don't know exactly, like maybe you've seen the new version of Exciter with Daniel Decay. I don't know, like Daniel Decay seems to be like a very good guitarist, but I mean, like, does he render the music the way John would? I don't know.
I don't know. I can't say. I haven't heard much or seen much at all. So
Mhm.
no. I did. I think I was close to seeing them, and then something. I don't know. I'm not sure. The show they were supposed to do here in Osnabrück, I couldn't make it, or whatever. I don't know. But obviously, I would also much prefer the, nothing against Daniel, but I would prefer the real deal. Yeah.
Well, the real deal, the thing is, like Daniel is a real deal, but he's not Exciter's real deal,
Exactly.
because John made it, like he created it.
Exactly. And
So
that's
the
exciting
same
too.
way, actually, Dan's voice was part of Exciter's identity. And that's the reason why I could understand that some people thought that I was not the right guy for Exciter. Like I heard a lot of comments saying like John should have called his band something else, but not Exciter, after I joined. And that's an opinion that actually you can defend, but because I was not, part of the original identity. But I mean, hey, that's part of the business as well.
That's part of it. I definitely, as far as I'm concerned, I thought that material was great. I would personally love to hear more along those lines. if it's called Exciter or whatever. I suppose you can't disclose a moniker yet.
Thing is, it's there's one that's been dragging for a while, and you're like, but it may change eventually. So I don't want you
Okay.
to have like the false idea, and then you like run with something, and then eventually learn that, oh fuck, you're like, it's that's not so. You know,
Okay.
like I don't want to mislead you. I personally don't like that name anyway. So
So you're waiting. Let's hope it
the
changes.
thing is, again, you like as I said, there's a whole bunch of things I don't agree with when it's time to working with John. You know, but I mean, I respect John, and that's that's one of the conditions when we reunited. He said, "I'm gonna want you to do some aggressive vocals again, maybe even more so than what you did with Exciter." And I went like, "Okay, I'm willing to do it the same way I did, back with Exciter. You have an idea. I'm going to trust that idea. I'm going to render it the best I can, as close as possible to what you want. And that's it. Like if I don't agree with that, I can always take off and leave. He has an idea. I trust his idea. And the more we're going to work together, the more chance we have to make it work.
Hell, I'm looking forward, and I wish you guys all the best. Definitely.
Cool. Thank you very much.
So basically, but that being said, this has nothing to do with Black Star, as you mentioned now. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. The Black Star thing actually, and all that material is it was very influenced by the bass player who was playing with us, Steve Manette. And Steve, like he's a big fan of bands like Queensryche or even Armored Saints. You like the hard metal, but more maybe a little bit more melodic. I don't maybe the word melodic or the adjective melodic is not the right one, but anyway, more mainstream, let's say. And it even had like some sort of 90s flavor to it, and it was like back we released, well, we didn't release anything, but we played a gig in 89. So you can see like when metal was changing back in the days where Judas Priest and even Iron Maiden started experimenting with the guitar synthesizers, like that sort of thing. So it had sort of a 90s flavor to it. And no, that's not something that John would want to play at all. That material, that mentality, whatever. And he didn't like, the lyrics that I was writing because he thought they were, how would I say, too intellectually inclined and not aggressive enough.
Okay.
And I agree with him. I mean, whether you like it or not, it's another ball game. But I mean, like, yeah, I agree.
So, but you are nevertheless gonna keep Assassin's Blade going, right?
The thing is, like I'm at the point where my interests in life are shifting slowly but surely. Peter asked me exceptionally, like he's part of many bands. Peter Svensson, the bass player in Assassin's Blade, and he asked me to record like some vocals for one of his bands called Gauntlet Rules, whatever. And then recently he sent me an email saying like, I would like to start recording stuff like in the sort of Assassin's Blade spirit, let's say. He says like it doesn't have to be a full album and stuff. And I said like, that'd be great. Like I'd like the idea, but and I think that's something I mentioned to you earlier. Like, I don't have any recording facilities. And the gentleman with whom I used to record, like he would give me like a very good price because he's a good friend and stuff. And he knows me. Like basically I've recorded all my stuff with Manfred Leidecker. And so basically, we know each other, we know each other's habits, and this and that. But Manfred is getting closer to 70 years old as well, like, and he doesn't have like the same, he still has the desire and stuff, but I mean, the energy, the discipline, like it takes to be attentive for hours on end, this and that, whatever. It's difficult to
Yeah.
have nowadays. And I'm at the point where like time and money and whatever, I need to spend it somewhere else. So music has never paid any bills for me.
Yeah.
So I do it for pleasure only. But at the same time, when if I'm going to be reserving some of my vacation days from the job, like to record, then it's work whether you like it or not. And this is time. Let's say like I have like 4 weeks vacation during a year. If I take like 2 weeks, like to record music,
And then yeah,
then I only have like 2 weeks left, like to take a vacation, and I
plus
work
you,
hard,
yeah, I mean,
like
but yeah, but I know exactly. I mean, things change. You have a life around you. You have you're probably in a relationship, and you also need to spend time there. Like some people have kids. It's everything shifts. You're not back in your 30s and where devil
and
may
think
come,
you're invincible, even if you're not.
devil may care. I don't care. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna and yeah, I also did it where I got invited to play, and I did everything on my own costs. I said, like,
Mhm.
I'm going to fork out the ticket. I just want the experience. I just want to go play.
Yeah.
I
Was it?
couldn't do that these days. I have clients. I have, you know,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a
responsibilities.
shame. And it's a shame because your music is really good. I really enjoyed actually the cuts that you sent me. And I just went, fuck, it's creative. It grooves even at times. It deserves like to be played in front of audiences and to be published, I
Cool.
think.
Thanks.
It's very, very good. I was impressed. Like I receive a whole bunch of things, like from people who would like me to, lend my voice to their material and stuff. And besides Peter, and I knew Peter already anyhow, so that sort of helped. But I mean, besides Peter's material, your material is the only one that I really enjoyed enough to sort of go like, fuck, do I have time? Do I have the means? Do I have to, whatever? Because yeah, and that's why I said, if there's one song that I could record, actually, it's this one. I can't remember the title, but I mentioned it to you.
Balance of
Um,
power. I think it was. Yeah.
Quite possible, because it starts and like it's pretty heavy, whatever, and then there's one part where it fucking grooves, this and that, but it's still heavy. It's very melodic. It's really good, Johan.
Glad to hear. But I'll look. That being said, I hear your situation obviously, and but I will get back to you on that. Um, and obviously, if you are still interested, but I also need
Well,
to get my ducks
yes,
in a row, and
the thing is, like the moment I know the song, it's a matter of, I don't know, maybe 2 days recording, this and that, whatever.
yeah.
And um to me, like that's the kind of thing, kind of project for which I'd be willing to make exceptions.
Very nice. Yeah. Look, if anything, I cannot provide the whole band scenario as much as I would like to. For me, it's also it's not no longer a possibility to entertain the notion of having five guys and meeting regularly, and that's if I do a band, I cannot do a band like a lot of these people do nowadays, where you meet up an hour before a show and quickly revisit all the notes and oh well, guess we'll just have to work. If I had the time to do it, I would do it regular practice because I want to feel it. I want to feel so comfortable and have it right, you know.
Well,
And that
yes.
I cannot do at this age and this point in life anymore. I can't. I tried it a couple of years back with a more doom orientated band, and just the traveling and to get regular practices in, it was not working for me.
No,
So
and you're right, because a
that's
band
why I
is a
decided to
relation.
to just record and bring out stuff, and that's it. No,
Yeah, because a band is a relationship first and foremost.
absolutely.
And if the vibe is good, then you can do wonder. But I mean, in order to feel that vibe, you have to play together. Otherwise, you can, use those internet like 5G. It's really fast. You can, everybody's staying at home. We're just going to practice through the internet, whatever this and that. That's cool. But I mean, that relationship aspect doesn't develop in this case.
Yeah.
It's more
No, you're not
mechanical.
going to get that.
And mechanical works, because like the heavy metal was an art, now it has become an industry,
It has, yeah,
unfortunately.
it has. It's crazy when you look out there, the amount of releases that are out. I mean, I consider myself a very knowledgeable person when it comes to all things heavy music. I don't only listen to metal. I think my taste is very wide, but I've lost track. It's just
Mhm.
become too much. It's I cannot. My youngest son he's now exploding into it. He's
Yeah.
now. We went to see Testament last night, and he is really into it now. And but he comes up to me every time we meet. He's like, "Have you heard this band?" I'm like, "Who? What?" Yeah, man. They've got so many listens on Spotify. I'm like, Spotify. Oh, shit. Where you earn like $2 a year. What? Yeah,
Yeah. But the
it's
thing is,
ridiculous.
streaming, I guess now we all understand why Metallica was totally against Napster back in the days. But the funny thing is, like now, when it comes to streaming, they're part of the bands that make the most money, because
And
there's,
they're probably the band that least suffered.
yeah, yeah. But back in the days in the Napster, like I think that they were right to be against
Yeah,
it.
yes, technically, yes.
For not just for them, but for the whole community of metal bands. Metal bands are fucking suffering because of that. Even touring now, because touring was the only way you could make money. Sell T-shirts, sell albums, this and that, make a little money, you know. And now, fucking, it's since COVID, like touring is so expensive. There's this whole bunch of bands who don't have the means to tour anymore.
Jacques, I was speaking to Bobby Gustafson of ex Overkill Violence just a couple of weeks ago, and he also said it's now gotten to a point. I mean, I saw now Flotsam cancelled, Exodus cancelled. They were supposed to play last night, okay, but that was due to a health thing, Gary's family.
Mhm.
But a lot of bands cancelled, and and it's exactly like you said. The only thing left for artists pre COVID was playing live, merch, that kind of thing. And now the tax leeches are also encroaching upon that. Like
Mhm.
how much now you're going to get heavier taxes with what you earn, and a lot of bands are just going. Anthrax, another band, they just said not worth it, not worth it. We're just going to play this
Yeah,
live. Finish.
yeah.
It's just
Touring, anything related to accommodation and tour buses, whatever, is costing at least twice as much as it used to before COVID. So you just go, what's the fuck? Like the little money we could have made, like is all
it's
gone because of that. And then you go like, okay, if you want a tour to promote album sales, it's not bad, but then you don't sell albums anymore because
no,
it's
you
all
don't.
fucking streaming,
It's
unless
actually something where I've always thought, why can't they develop something where they can be more lenient on artists? You know,
lenient on
really,
artists. This
yeah.
idea is good,
I
but
know
I mean,
it sounds really naive, but I mean countries like Norway and they really support culture and music.
well,
Because
for as long as they consider metal as part of the culture, yeah,
yes,
sure.
but they do. They actually accept it as this is an export of ours, black metal and like music
Mhm.
and but that's why the scene there is flourishing as it is. It's just crazy the amount of musicians that come out of Scandinavia. It's
Mhm.
and I've spoken to a couple of them and they said no, it's really it's something you can make happen in these countries.
Well, if you can get subsidies from the government, then that's
Yeah.
great. But don't think about it here in Canada, man. It's
No, and not in Germany either. I mean, I think it was Schmier from Destruction that said during the COVID, he said they didn't even, there was talk of a sort of financial injection that artists could get. I mean, even like mimes and, all
Mhm.
these carnival people, all that stuff. And at first it was under the guise of it's for you. And then months later it was, well, we'll have to now look at payback. and
Oh.
and Schmier only said like, "Thank God we never did that. We did a live online live show just to get in some finances and pay our crew and stuff. It's ridiculous.
Mhm.
It's ridiculous."
Shit. Anyhow, what can you do? Like the thing is, like, it's as I said earlier, this has turned into an industry. And anything that's an art turned into an industry is going to reach a high point and then eventually fall
It'll
into
crash again.
decadence.
Yeah.
It's the West is becoming very decadent.
The decline of
Yeah.
Western civilization.
Oh fucking, like it was sort of announced a long time ago, but I mean, like now we're right into it.
I think we are definitely. Yeah.
Wokeism and all that kind of shit. The thing is, like it's funny actually how a lot of people like, when I was taking, like I did a bachelor's degree in philosophy back at Ottawa University. And back in those days, I thought, like I'm a liberal, I'm a leftist, and I'd like to. But then I took there was like this very famous prof at Ottawa U, like he was going to retire and stuff. And someone told me you have to take one of his courses, like, because fuck, man, you're going to be in awe of him and this and that. So I decided the only course he would give basically was on conservatism. And then, I reluctantly, registered, but I mean, like, I started taking that, and then I was just drinking every single syllable. He was such a smart guy, and I just went, you know what? I discovered I was politically very conservative, but in
Mhm.
intimacy and personal life, very liberal.
Yeah.
And basically, that's what conservative is. Like freedom is one of the fundamental values of conservatism, but at the same time, when it becomes politics, and political, and how to manage society and a government, then there are certain sacrifices that you have to be willing to
Mhm.
make. And the new extra left wing, whatever tenants like the woke and
Yeah.
they don't do that anymore. Like it's always me, finger pointing,
Exactly.
destroying, vandalizing, this and that. But when you ask them, like, what's your solution? The rich should give us money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's the rich? How did they make that money? How about you make some money? How about you build something? You know, we're not
Exactly.
into
You
that
can you can
anymore.
watch that now here in Germany. You've got the Green Party and everything, and the policies they are trying to push on us here now. It's getting ridiculous. I think Germany is being laughed at worldwide due to our stance now, especially with the whole work thing as well. And Germany seems to take on this role of dictating to other nations how to conduct themselves. Our foreign minister actually went and oh, it was a blamage. She went to China and she was actually lambasted by their foreign minister, and he said like, listen, maybe you should grow up and before you
Well, look
tackle
at
this kind of job, it's
yeah, look at von der Leyen
yes.
at the fuck. She's a fucking joke, and she's coming from. She was part of the Angela Merkel's
Yeah.
government. She's a fraud,
No,
basically. But
it's scary,
no,
but
she's the big boss at the European Union. And then you just go like, what the hell's going on?
now you can see there's a recoil happening here now. The AfD, which is considered by many a Nazi party, um, they are growing immensely. And now they're all asking themselves why. How can this be? So like maybe you need to look at your policies. People are fed up.
Yeah. But the thing is, what I'm afraid is that like maybe it's going to be like what happens in the United States, like with extremism, like wokeism, like that's fucking invading every government in the West. The only counterbalance some people will think is with another extreme,
Yeah, and that's not always the
but
answer.
that's not the answer, because this is just going to lead us to civil war. And
Yeah.
the extreme right, like, and fascist whatever ideas, they're going to lead us down the fucking drain too. Like that's not what we want. But
Yeah.
I mean, how can you tell people that they should be reasonable ideas, like not centrist, not extreme centrist, like ideas, because these people don't believe in anything.
Mhm.
But how can you have like a good government that will know where to make sacrifices and how to redistribute the wealth, so rich people can still be rich, but the middle class can still exist and expand if at all possible? And I don't think that there's a lot of people who have solutions for that,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
sadly. Well, we're heading close to our next cutoff. Jack, it's been great talking. We need to catch up again at some point. What I wanted to ask you quickly is, in order for me to put something in the links description below the video, what is is it most reachable address? Is that Facebook, or
My Facebook address?
for people to catch up on you?
Aren't we already? You mean like people to catch up, or
Yeah,
you?
yeah. If they watch the video,
If they want to reach me, you mean? Just like we're friends on Facebook, right?
yeah, yeah.
You and I. They can use that. That's the only
Okay,
Facebook thing
okay,
I have.
cool. I will do so.
That's the personal one that I use to promote bands when I'm in one, and
Great.
that I will use eventually if this project with John happens to be released.
I'm holding thumbs for you guys and excited to hear what's coming. And I'll be in touch.
Absolutely, it will be a pleasure. It was a pleasure to talk with you, Johan,
The feeling is mutual.
and I hope we can talk soon.
We will. Jack, go well. Have a good
Take
weekend.
care.
Cheers.
You too. Cheers.